Welcome back to the table, and today we're not going to talk about games you play on the table, but in a way we are talking about tabletop games.
Yeah.
We're talking about pinball, and don't tune away just yet because we're talking about pinball tables based on board games.
Yeah.
Now, these are not real pinball tables you can buy in real life,
Well,
but
yet.
everyone can have them in their homes because if you have Pinball FX on your computer, on your PS5, on your Xbox, whatever, Pinball FX is on literally every platform. And they have all sorts of tables, but they just announced and just released on December 7th a pack of tables called Game Night, which I love because I'm a huge Pinball FX fan.
That's very
I
true.
play it all the time. And to see that collide with my other love of board games is fantastic. And this pack has 3 tables. It has Terraforming Mars, Gloomhaven, and Exploding Kittens. Now, you're probably thinking there's one of those I don't like or this or that. But those 3 games...
They're just themes for
pinball. From a mainstream standpoint, those are probably 3 of the biggest, most well-known board game names.
Well, for sure.
Around, other than, say, like old school board games.
Well, it's easy for us.
Hobbyist board games.
It's easy for us, and probably for you, to write off Exploding Kittens and say, well, that's just a card game. But that is, Exploding Kittens is probably by far more well-known than Gloomhaven and Terraforming Mars.
Oh, yeah.
Like, outside of this hobby, like, generally people know what Exploding Kittens is in a way that I underestimated.
Oh, for sure.
Until I, go to Target and just see the wall of Exploding Kittens products. And,
there's a Netflix show coming out.
That's true. There's a Netflix show coming out. Exploding Kittens has hit the culture in a way that I think a lot of us... unfairly so, or maybe a little dismissive of in the beginning.
Yeah,
but it has definitely.
I backed it originally.
Yeah, but it has turned into an empire, and it's more than just Exploding Kittens. But anyway, that's a cool theme for a pinball machine. Anyway,
yeah, and it's the funniest one.
For sure, it's got a sense of humor there.
Yeah, so all the tables. I'll give you a brief description. Gloomhaven. They really do capture the feeling of what you're doing in the board game.
Yeah,
obviously, it's a pinball game, so it's going to be different. But in Gloomhaven, there's all sorts of missions. There's choices you're making. Like something happens, like one of the events, and you have to go up this ramp to choose this or this ramp to choose that. And the story unfolds. And then there's a battle that's on this sub area in the board where you're these enemies. And you're using elemental effects.
Yeah, it's very thematic. They did their research.
They clearly did the research, almost to the point where I feel like they had to have worked pretty closely with some of these game developers.
Or the designers, the team that did the digital Gloomhaven games. That team has really knocked it out with the Gloomhaven digital game as well. So
that's true. And then the Exploding Kitten ones is just what you'd expect. It's really silly, really fun.
Bunch of kittens exploding?
Honestly, I hadn't seen one
explode. You haven't exploded one kitten yet, David?
I wanted to see how graphic it was going to be. But it is hilarious looking. Then the Terraforming Mars one does the same thing all the way up to and including before you actually start playing. You choose your corporation and your corporation has different effects you have an extra ball save, or you have this is extra long. Any mode that you start is all these different things, and then you're doing all the things you would do in Terraforming Mars.
Yeah, and not that we're just here to talk about, because we did want to talk about the fact that you can get these great board game tables, but this pinball app, if I want to call it an app, it's a platform, whatever, has just a huge, wide variety of nerdy.
Don't you dare
machines.
get me started.
We're not gonna. Maybe that's a separate video, but I'm just saying.
Pinball FX, the current iteration has 70 to 80 different tables.
Get it for the tabletop, but then explore your nerdy interests. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. If you ever liked pinball and you're like, I've never heard of Pinball FX. Get on it right now.
Oh, I grew up with the Windows. Windows had a little pinball game. Yeah. You remember that old little?
Oh, that was awful. But yes,
it was all we had.
These
it's
pinball
just amazing
tables
how it's
feel so
changed.
real.
Well, they do. They feel so real, but they do things again that you can't. They do things that you can't really easily do in real tabletop pinball. But
for sure.
But they actually present it in such a way where as you're watching these effects happen, you're like, okay, it feels like I'm playing at a real actual pinball machine, which is really interesting.
For sure. And little known fact, or maybe it's a well known fact. Tom Vassell, also a giant pinball fan. He and I have actually in Vegas a couple times gone to that pinball, I don't know if it's the Hall of Fame, but this
Pinball Museum or whatever it's
called.
Pinball
Museum and played some pinball. Yeah. So I'm going to try to get him to play against me somehow.
Oh, that'd be a fun little stream.
If we can get that, let us know in the comments below. Let them know in their comments. Let's make this happen. Because I want to take on Tom in a game of pinball.
I would love that. Let him pick the table.
All 3 of those tables.
Oh, all 3 in a row. The gauntlet.
The gauntlet. We run the gauntlet.
I'd love to see this happen. You know what? We should have brought a glove so you could throw down the official challenge to Tom.
Oh, that would have been good. And by the way, if you're out there and you're just about to start writing in the comments like, why are you talking about video games? This is a board game channel. Give us a break. This is both things combined.
I don't know. You think people are going to be there like, oh.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of...
I know who you are.
There's got to be a lot of crossover between board game players and pinball players.
I think
anyway.
so. I think so. It has a puzzly vibe to it, more than you'd think. A lot of people think pinball's just like, well, you're just kind of like randomly slapping. No.
There's a lot of strategy. More strategy than I have.
So much.
I'm not good at pinball.
Anyway, if you have any questions about the tables or anything related to Pinball FX, I'd be happy to get down there and answer whatever you want to ask. Until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.